How's it, folks? We've just gotten quite a lot of details about the future updates coming to Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 during the stream hosted by Toby and Prokop over on Warhorse Twitch page. If you happen to miss the stream, I'm going to summarize all the information they put out during that stream in this shortish video. So starting off with the patch 1.2, it's going to be coming out in about 2 weeks in mid-March, and it is going to contain over 1,000 fixes to the game, including some performance fixes in areas that they considered weren't quite up to scratch. They're also doing some balancing changes, so they're not going to be nerfing swords, but they are going to be buffing things like the polearms and the heavy weapons to make them a bit more viable, so that swords don't feel like the only option and you're limiting yourself if you don't use them. They've also included fixes for annoyances that people have reported while playing the game. Things like that pop-up that always shows up when you're holding W when you gallop in on a horse. They're going to make it so that doesn't show up nearly as much as it currently does. And then there's also a couple of other minor annoyances, like if you have your headphones plugged into your PlayStation controller and the vibration and the sound and whatnot affects each other. So that gets fixed apparently. And they've also changed how photo mode works on controllers, so you don't accidentally open it up. So you have to go to the menu to actually choose it. Along with all of the fixes and changes and whatnot they're going to add in patch 1.2, they're also going to be releasing the first free DLC, the Barber's Update, which you should be seeing a selection of some of the haircuts ahead, beard styles for Henry. Other than the patch and the free update for the Barber's DLC, they're also going to be releasing the modding tools in roughly 2 weeks. I think they said 11th of March. I'm not quite certain on that, but roughly 2 weeks time, the modding tools will be coming for KCD2 as well. Don't have too much details on the actual modding tools. They did briefly mention that it will have better documentation and make it easier to mod the game, but they didn't really go into details about what you could do differently with modding tools that some modders are able to do now. But they are going to be working with Steam to have mods put up on the Steam workshop, and they didn't mention anything about mods for the console, so it seems to be PC specific at the moment. And then they also went into a bit of detail about hardcore mode. This will be coming out a month after patch 1.2, so about mid-April. And in hardcore mode, it's going to be basically similar to KCD1's hardcore mode, where it's a bit more difficult, but also more immersive, where the helpful UI elements are removed. Things like your directional attack buttons, your position on the map, your stamina bar, your health bar, those things don't show up anymore. You will still get the little buff icons at the bottom of the screen, but you're going to have to guesstimate your health and stamina by the visual and sound effects coming from yourself and the NPCs. And also fast travel is disabled during hardcore mode. And before you start hardcore mode, you're going to have to select at least 3 negative perks, but you can also select every single one of them. So I'm going to briefly go through those perks now. Starting off with bad back. Every back has a God-given number of times it can bend. Yours is already past its limit. You can generally carry less, and whenever you bend to pick up a herb or mushroom, there's a small chance you'll strain your back and be left hobbling for a while. Next is heavy-footed. You've always been heavy-footed. Mars said it doesn't matter, everyone has their quirks. Fritz and Matthew always said you were a bumbling idiot. Your shoes wear down faster, and you generally make more noise. The third is Numbskull. How should I put it? You're not the sharpest quill in the inkwell. In order for you to understand anything, people will have to repeat it at least twice. All your experience gain is 20% slower. All your experience gain is 20% slower. Somnambulant. They say you spend half your life sleeping. That's a good thing. Perhaps the other half won't be so awful. You lose energy faster, and every time you sleep, there's a chance your sleepwalking legs will take you somewhere else. And they did briefly mention that if you take this perk, you can sleepwalk to locations that were impossible for Henry to reach otherwise. So it could be quite fun to take this just to see where Henry actually ends up. Hangry Henry. You feel quite hungry. As soon as you're hungry, all you can think about is food. You're useless and you don't want to talk to people. All you want to do is eat. In addition to the usual effects of hunger, starving also reduces your speech, charisma, and intimidation. Moreover, all food will fill you 20% less, and your digestion rate increases by 50%. So you need to eat more and more often. Next is sweaty. If you were a tanner, nobody would find it odd that you smell awful, only you are not a tanner. You get dirty faster, meaning you start to smell faster, and when you do, you can be smelled from twice as far away, making you easier to detect. Plus, perfume doesn't give you any positive effects. You just can't hide the stench. Next is picky eater. You'd prefer to only eat your Mars cooking, only your Mars in a better place so you don't eat much. Your pickiness causes all food in your inventory to spoil 25% faster. When gutting animals, you are also pickier and get only half the meat and other items from the animals. Next is bashful. You have trouble talking to strangers, so you prefer to avoid doing so. You can't ask people for directions, so it's more difficult to find your way around. Besides that, you are too shy to speak to the girls at the bathhouse, so you can't request all of their services. Since you're not much of a talker, gaining speech skill is also slower. And then Punchable Face. Take a look at yourself, pig's eyes, nose like a button. Wouldn't you just punch yourself in the face? Surely you would, and you're not alone. Coming across travelers on the road is more dangerous, as is getting into a fight. Besides that, enemies never surrender and are more confident, making fights more difficult. And then moving on to Menace. Tales of the wicked deeds of Henry of Scarlet have preceded you to the new lands. The law will keep a closer eye on you. Once you're branded for a crime, the effect is permanent, and getting caught for any other serious crime will lead to your execution. What's more, guards will punish you more severely, and the consequences of these punishments will be more intense. So those are all the hardcore perks that you have the option of selecting at the start of a hardcore game. Do you have any of those that you would like to start your hardcore mode with? Or are you just going to decide to go with all of them and see what actually happens? And that's pretty much most of the major news that came from the stream. They did speak a little bit more about the auction they were selling for their charity, but otherwise they didn't give away too much about the actual changes. So we're going to have to wait for the patch notes for the game in about 2 weeks' time. And I'll let you guys know more about that when it actually drops. On top of that, I am currently editing a playthrough I did, completing the entire game without killing anyone, a full pacifist playthrough. So hit that subscribe button if you want to check that out when I drop that video. Otherwise, I hope you all have a fantastic day. Take care and cheers for now.